Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin. And today we are in chapter 2 of So You Really Want to Learn Latin. And we are now moving on to page 22 as things begin to get just a little bit tricky. Last time we were practicing writing sentences where the subject of the sentence was in the nominative case, the object was in the accusative case, and the verb was going at the end and was agreeing with the subject. And I said that we would have some fun and games when we started translating from Latin into English, because in a sense it's a little bit harder. When you translate from English into Latin, you now know that you have to take enormous care to get the right endings on the end of the words. The nominative ending goes on the subject, the accusative ending goes on the object, and the verb has to agree with the subject. So if the subject is singular, the verb will have one of the singular endings, and if the subject is plural, the verb will have a plural ending. And we learnt that if the subject of the sentence is a pronoun, like I or you or he or we or you or they, the ending of the verb will have the appropriate ending, ost, mus, tis or unt. And if the subject is a noun, then if it is a singular noun, the verb ending will be third person singular. And if it is a plural noun, or two or more singular nouns joined together by and, the verb will have the third person plural ending for they. Okay, well, so far so good. We're now going to look at what happens when we translate from Latin into English. Now, the very first thing to understand is that unless you're just going to be content to guess, and I hope you're not, when translating from Latin, you absolutely must understand that it is not the word order that helps you understand the meaning of the sentence. It is the endings on the end of the words. So, in English, we know that the subject tends to come before the verb, and the verb tends to come before the object. So we get sentences such as, the girl sees the farmer, and we know that the girl is the subject because she comes before the word sees, which is the verb, which comes before the word farmer, which is the object. Right. When we look at that in Latin, we are not bothered by the order in which the words appear. We are bothered entirely by the endings of the words. So, let's have a little look at how this works in practice. First, let's just remind ourselves of what those endings are. So, for nouns, first declension nouns, in the singular, a first declension noun like mensa will have the nominative case ending that ends in an a, so mensa, and an accusative case that ends in am, so mensam. Okay, so if it is the subject and it's singular, it will be mensa, and if it is the object and it's singular, it'll be mensam. In the plural, if it is the subject, it will be mensai with ae as its ending, and if it is the object, it will be mensas with the ending as. Okay, so those key endings, a, in the singular, I, as in the plural, and for verbs we need to be looking very carefully to see whether the person doing the verb is an I or a you or a he, she or it, or a we or a you or a they. And for example, the present tense of amo, those endings would be o, s, t, mus, tis and unt. So we would have or amas, amat, amamus, amatus, amant. Okay, so endings are going to be key to all of this. So, if we have the sentence, Agricola puellam amat. We look at the first word, Agricola. That's got a nice nominative singular ending, the letter A, so that is likely to be the subject of our sentence. Puellam has got an accusative singular ending on it, the am, so that means the girl when the girl is the object. And right at the end we've got amat, which means he, she or it loves. So Agricola puellam amat means the farmer loves the girl. And the only real difficulty with that is that the verb is coming at the end of the sentence. So you have to get used to sort of delaying your natural tendency to translate an English verb until you get to it, because the verb itself in Latin has been pushed right to the end. Okay, I'll just do another one. Agricolae nautam spectant. Okay, now, here we go again. First word, agricolae. Now the ending, I, indicates that it's a nominative plural. So these agricolae must be the subject, the farmers. Now, we know they're going to be doing something, and the thing that they are doing will be found at the end of the sentence. So we trundle down to the end of the sentence and we find spectant. So we know that the farmers are watching. That's what they are doing. So we're now looking for an object, and the object will be the word in the accusative case. We find the word nautam, which is an accusative singular ending, am, so we know that the object in this sentence is the sailor, and there is only one of him. So, agricolae nautam spectant means the farmers watch the sailor. Okay, so far so good. Have another one of these. Femina deam amat. Okay, so our first word, femina, means the woman, and she's got a nice nominative singular ending on her, femina, so she's the subject. Deam is an accusative singular ending. Dea is a goddess, so deam is the goddess when she is the object, and amat means he, she or it loves, but we already know that our subject is femina, the woman loves the goddess. Okay, and just one more. Incola nautas non amat. Now, we've just thrown in an extra word there, just to jazz things up a bit. Non, you remember, means not. Incola nautas non amat. The inhabitant does not love the sailors. Okay, now, you may be thinking, well, what's so hard about that? Because whether or not you've noticed, I've always made sure that the subject happens to be the first Latin word you get to, the object is the second Latin word you get to, and the verb is at the end. So you could become a bit lazy and just say, well, first word will be the subject, second word will be the object, third word will be the verb. Now, it doesn't always work that way, because the subject in Latin is not always the first word that you come across in the sentence. So, take a sentence like this one. Nautam spectamus. Okay, now it's very tempting to see the word nautam, no, it means a sailor, and just dive straight in and say the sailor, and then it'll go pear-shaped. The reason it will go pear-shaped is nautam has got an accusative case ending on the end of it. Nautam. So those letters AM should act as a sort of traffic light, red light, don't do anything quite yet. because am is the ending for the object. So nautum, yes, it means a sailor, but it means the sailor when the sailor is the object. So we've got to go off and find the subject of this sentence. Now, in this sentence, we've only got two words, so we don't have very far to look. Spectamus, on its own, means we watch. So as soon as you say spectamus means we watch, you instantly find out who the subject of the sentence is, because it's obviously we. Spectamus, we watch. And then you say, well, who do we watch? And there is only one other word in the sentence, so your object is that other word. So nautum spectamus means we watch the sailor. Okay? But it just shows how you have got to be careful. Again, we might have feminas laudant. Now, feminas means the women. Laudant means they praise. But feminas means the women when the women are the object. So the ending as tells you that this noun is plural, but it is the object. It is an accusative plural ending. So, feminas laudant means they praise. So laudo means I praise. Laudant means they praise. Feminas, the women. Now, that should give you a very clear steer to the necessity of looking carefully at the endings of the Latin words and not making any assumptions about what role they play in the sentence. You simply cannot take the view that the first word you get to will be the subject and the second word will be the verb and the third word will be the object. That's how English works. It is not how Latin works. Now, to make things even harder, we can shuffle the words around a bit, sort of on purpose to make life hard for you, but I'll show you, it isn't just to make life hard for you, it is the way in Latin you can change the emphasis in the sentence. Feminas agricolae laudant. Now, the first word, feminas, means the women, but it's got an accusative case ending, so we know they are the object. We still don't know who the subject is. Second word, agricolae. Okay, the farmers, when the farmers are the subject. So, for reasons best known to whoever, our subject has been put as the second Latin word, and the object was actually the first Latin word. And then the verb is at the end, laudant. So that means they praise, and we need to know, well, who praises, and we've got a subject. The subject happened to be the second Latin word, agricolae. So that sentence must mean the farmers, they are the subject, praise, the verb at the end, laudant, feminas, the women. Now you might ask, well, why was the sentence written that way round? And the simple rule is that although the normal word order in Latin would be subject first, then object, then verb, if you interfere with that natural word order, what you're doing is you are changing the emphasis, and you are putting emphasis on the word which is in a position in the sentence that you were not expecting. Okay? So in that sentence we've just done, feminas agricolae laudant, the words that are sort of in the wrong order are feminas and agricolae. So what we're doing is we're sort of putting emphasis on the fact that it's a bit peculiar that it was the women that the farmers praise. Okay? If it had just been agricolae feminas laudant, that might have been the farmers praise the women. But by saying feminas agricolae laudant, we're saying something like it was the women that the farmers praise. Okay, now I don't want you to get bogged down too much at this early stage in emphasis in Latin sentences. It's going to be quite hard enough just translating the things. But it just shows you, you cannot assume that the first word you see will be the subject and the second word will be the object and the verb. Take a guess at it when you get to it at the end. You've got to look at these endings. Okay, so let's try this one. Puellam non vokas. Now, you've got that first word, puellam, and that is an accusative case ending. But you can see what the temptation could easily be. You see the word girl and you dive straight in and say the girl, and then everything else goes a bit wrong. So you've got to train yourself to look at the verb non vokas. Now, vokas means you call. So non vokas means you do not call. You do not call. So the girl cannot be the one doing the calling or the not calling. She was the object, she had an accusative case ending. So puellam non vokas is you do not call the girl. And this could be even harder and more tempting to make that mistake if it were puellam non vocat. Okay, now vocat means he, she or it calls. Non vocat means he, she or it does not call. And you've got a lovely singular noun available, puellam, which means the girl, and the terrible danger is that you're going to say the girl does not call. But you must not do that for the simple reason that puellam is an accusative case ending. So puellam is the object. You go to the verb and you get to non vocat, and you find that your subject must be the pronoun in that verb. He, she or it does not call, and then you go back and find your object, the girl. So it's sounding to me, and probably to you, as if we're going to need a very clear set of rules for how to deal with this sort of thing. And I've got a set of rules. I call them my golden rules. Whenever I'm translating Latin, I use them the whole time. They're complete instinct to me now. In our next video, I'll show you how these golden rules work. And with any luck, you'll find yourself translating Latin without making the disastrous mistake of muddling your subject and your object, which of course is the thing you must not do. Okay, so look forward to next time when we take you through the golden rules of Latin translation. Do subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying these lessons. Leave me a comment below if there's anything that you're finding difficulty with, and I will see you next time.